Good luck, anyways.
All right, I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen meeting, open the Board of Selectmen meeting for Wednesday, April 10th, 2019. Before we get going, would you please stand and let's recognize the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have a very light agenda for this evening's meeting. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome the newest member of the Board of Selectmen, Ms. Jane Miller.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Welcome aboard. All right, that brings us right into reorganization for 7 p.m., so we'll take the chair hat off, and let's get into it. Are there any nominations for the chair?
I'd like to make a nomination, Mr. Mr. Kelly. I would like to nominate you as the chair.
Second.
I have a nomination. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye as well, unanimous. Thank you very much. Very humbled, and just for you all, and for Jane, and for the residents, you know, I'm very open, I'm very honest. You know, I look at myself as the chair, as not the boss. We all have residents put us in office to make decisions. We all have brains. I always say Mr. Dick has a supercomputer, not a brain. But I am very open.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're very, very welcome.
Grass doesn't grow on a busy street.
And just to let Jay know and the residents, my style is simple. Residents come to us, we can react, we can talk to the town manager. I have no handcuffs. I always look at the board of the chairman to run a very productive meeting, and that's my style. I will say, I think, Mark, you might have said this when you were the chair, is we do a very good job as a board. We don't all have to get together. We don't have to vote the same. Again, that's why we're all independent. But when we work with department heads, you know, that's where I like to be a little bit cautious and work through Richard so everyone's on the same page. I look around sometimes at different towns and communities and see the selectmen get involved with police, fire, or what have you, and it comes, you know, and that's not good. So we always typically go through Richard when we're dealing with department heads. And again, my style is over communication via email, and we pick up the phone. And again, we might think differently and vote differently, and that's absolutely fine, but communication is the key to success and to help 30,000 residents stay together as a collective board. So I'm very humbled, and I thank you guys for that. So, moving right along, any nominations for vice chair?
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Mark Kratman as vice chair.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion. I have a second. Anne Marie, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank
Congratulations.
you very much. Appreciate that. I want to thank you for being chair as well. It's a lot of work that goes into being the chair, and I think you're doing a wonderful job, and I think we work well together as a board, so thank everybody.
Very good. I know last but not least, the most sexiest job on the board is clerk. So do I have any nominations for clerk?
I'll make a motion to nominate Jane Wellman Miller as clerk.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The chair votes aye as well. Unanimous. Very good.
Thank you.
We're all used to
I'm
that.
very excited to this role. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Brian.
All right, very good. Now, we do have an agenda because it is a scheduled meeting, so at this time, I'm going to open up to residents. Any residents would like to speak at this time?
Nothing.
Karen? All right, seeing none, what we're going to do is move to new business, and I do believe, Mr. Montour, that we do have just we do have some new business to discuss regarding the Tewksbury Town policy for the application for small cell wireless installations.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So earlier this evening, Selectman Miller brought to my attention that April 15th is the due date for towns to adopt regulations on a policy, application, and design guidelines related to 5G and small cell facilities. The draft that I've presented to the board, the draft documents, it's actually 3 separate documents within the policy. It's the application, it's design guidelines, and the policy itself. It was developed by the National League of Cities, and originally it was adopted by the town of Burlington. I believe Andover is reviewing it also. Yep. Burlington had a consultant go through the document prior to their adoption. And in my opinion, if the board were to adopt this policy or these policies, it would give us an additional time to study the issue and determine what, if any, changes to the policy should be considered, so it doesn't hurt adopting this policy tonight. I know it's last minute. Further, several large cities in the central and western part of the country have brought suit against the FCC, challenging the FCC's regulations on this issue. And it appears that the legal challenges rest on the belief that there's no reason why rules and regulations for 5G cell towers should be any different than the procedures that the cities and towns have for siting other cell structures and facilities. So we'll see how that goes. So accordingly, adopting these policies would at worst be a placeholder for us and give us more time to look at the issue. We can always make changes to it, but at least it allows us to meet the deadline for Monday, April 15th. If the legal challenges are successful and there are some other reasons emerge that suggest that we don't need these policies, the board can vote to rescind the policy. From looking at the policy, it's something that we've talked about in the past in regard to these small cell facilities. I think it's a good position for us to be in adopting this policy. So I would recommend that the board move to adopt the 5G and small cell facilities application policy and design guidelines as I've presented this evening.
Questions from the board? Ms. Miller?
No, I can just give you a little history. I've got a phone call from a friend of mine who's the selectman in Andover, Chris Huntress, and he reached out and said, I don't know if you know about this. We didn't know about this, and so we've scheduled an emergency meeting for Thursday. And I said, well, send me whatever you have, and he had just gotten it. He sent it to me, and I immediately contacted Richard to see if there would be an opportunity to address it now or schedule a meeting as soon as possible to address it. So I think this is a really good option. It's a placeholder for us, and it gives us an opportunity to protect ourselves down the road if the FCC doesn't make a change or the legal challenges don't succeed. So I support it.
Ms. Stark?
I would just, first of all, I'm thrilled that we got some heads up on this, so that's great. And I appreciate Richard putting this to us tonight so quickly. But I guess when I was here a little bit earlier, so I was able to review the policy, and I am thrilled because this is addressing some of those small cells that we have already challenged and had some questions on, and it also has a fee structure in place, which I think will be helpful. And the areas of prohibition on this, for lack of a better word, are very beneficial to the town. So I am also very supportive of this policy. And while it was last minute, I agree with Richard. If we spend some more time, and I believe you said that you gave it to legal counsel to review too,
Yeah, so
right?
one of the other things I'm going to ask after the board decides on the actual application policy and design guidelines, that the board move that I consult with counsel and any other appropriate officials to see if any changes are needed to the policy.
So that's great.
Very good. Yeah, no, we had some questions as well because you're transitioning from the macro towers, we see sometimes on VFWs or churches, what have you, to these smaller ones. And I think the board questioned it last year. Matter of fact, I think we did approve some of this, so it's very timely. So I have no questions. Mr. Chapman?
Yeah, I think this is wonderful. I brought this up when we had them come in, and there was only one company that came to town. And the first thing I thought of was, okay, it only works for your technology. Every cell phone company is going to have something with their own technology. And the last thing I want is these things on every single pole to be an eyesore in our community. So hopefully we can go through this a little bit better and come up with something that, there should be some sort of shared technology. If somebody's going to be putting something in the right of way of our town, that they should come up with some agreement, and I don't want these things everywhere. I mean, I saw where they went up in a couple of places, and they try to tell us that you're not going to notice them because they kind of look like the power, the part of the power station that's already up there, and it's going to be, but they're on top of poles. And my concern is if somebody hits a pole, we have to contact somebody. Who do we contact? Who owns the infrastructure? Because there's just going to be something that's up there with, like who's going to be keeping track of who owns each cell thing on each pole. And if we have 12 different cell phone companies putting these up and down 38 and Livingston Street and every other location, seems like they're going away. City of Boston, I looked at what some of their policies were, and they were putting them on a lot of their own infrastructure. So they were collecting fees because they were putting them on their streetlights. And so because it belonged to the City of Boston instead of the utility companies, they were able to collect fees. But when they came to us, there was no fee when we got it. And if you're putting something in the right of way and you're using the town's right of way, there should be some sort of fee associated with it. So I think this is a great policy to start with.
Very good. Any other questions from the board? What is the pleasure of the board?
Just before you make a motion,
Yes.
Charles, can I ask you a question? Yes. Since this was not on the agenda, and we're taking it up more as an emergency because of Monday's deadline.
Yes.
Does the board need to vote to add it to the agenda?
I don't think you need to vote to put it on the agenda. It's something that came up before the agenda was published and placed on the bulletin board. So I think it's appropriate where it came up after that fact to simply vote on it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
The agenda is the agenda.
Items that were unanticipated inside 48 hours is the rule, I think.
Yep, I just didn't know if there was a vote.
Very good.
needed.
So
yeah.
we're safe. So what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to adopt this draft policy provisionally and ask the town manager to review with town council and other related personnel for changes.
Very good. Motion to have, go
Can I
Mr. Montori.
can we make it to adopt this policy,
I'm sorry.
not draft? Just
Sorry, I amend it to adopt the policy.
Very good. Okay, a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion. I have a second. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The chair votes aye as well, unanimous. All right.
And then, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with the board, I'll consult with the council and any other appropriate officials on if there are any modifications needed to the policy, application, and design guidelines.
Okay, very
Okay.
good. All right, Mr.
Thank you.
Montori. Do we have, so I know the next on the agenda is new business. Do we want to cover any of the warrant articles?
Yeah, so it's not the warrant articles. We're posting the warrant next week, and this is the last meeting the board has before that. So I'd ask the board to approve signing the signature page for the special and annual town meeting warrant, and I'll pass it around to be signed.
Do we need to take a vote on that, or just simply sign it?
I'll take a
right?
vote on it.
Okay, we need to take a vote. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the signatures of the Board of Selectmen tonight for the special and annual warrants as proposed by the town manager this evening.
A motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, unanimous. All right, Mr. Montori, we're going to continue. I think we have a couple of senior town council invoice and a town council invoice.
Yes, we have a town council invoice in the amount of $3,060 for March 1 of 19 through March 15th of 19. I'd recommend approval.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the senior town council bill March 1st.
Town council bills.
I'm sorry, senior town council,
Town council.
town council?
Yes.
Not senior, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
All right,
actually
you-
says on the agenda, senior town.
Oh, no, start with town council.
All right. I'll do town council first in the amount of $3,060.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
For motion, I have a second. All's in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
And then we have a senior town council bill in the amount of $9,631.14, and I would recommend approval.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the senior town council invoices as submitted for $9,631.14.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Chapman, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the chair votes aye as well, unanimous. Anything else, Mr. Montori?
No, I'm going to pass around for the board to sign a citation for Louise Gertie, who has retired. She was on the Housing Authority for many years, for the board to sign. That will be given to her.
Okay, wonderful. Minutes, I don't believe there are any minutes, Mr. Brian Dick?
There are no minutes. Next meeting will be some minutes.
Okay,
to
very good.
approve.
Board member reports.
I have nothing to report for this meeting.
Ms. Stronach?
So I have a few things. First of all, I would like to say thank you to the voters for having the confidence to put me back on this board. I'm humbled and look forward to serving the residents of the town for the next 3 years. I would also like to welcome Jane. I'm very happy that she's here with us. And I would also, it was a tough race because there were 3 very qualified candidates and only 2 seats. And I just want to recognize the work that Selectman Todd Johnson has done for this community and the work that he's done on this board. And would like to officially find some way to recognize him publicly, not tonight, but in the future. And I'd like to just kind of put that out to all of us. It's typical of what we do. So I just wanted to take a minute to say that I will miss Mr. Johnson's leadership on this board. And I'm sure that he will continue to be involved and take our phone calls if needed. So I want to appreciate that. I would also like to talk about the school vote. As you know, we were fortunate enough to have the voters also support the new elementary school vote. And it was close to a little over 60%, so it was a 60-40 split. The next vote that needs to be taken on that is May 6th at town meeting. Just want to be clear again, the project is for $98 million. With the MSBA reimbursement of about 39 million. I know that's not the exact number, I'm giving you averages. And that this project moving forward, we are in a very unique position, and a lot of other towns would be very envious to be in the position we're in to have this go before our town meeting. So I hope that we have as many people as possible come out and share their opinions about this, because it is an important decision for our community. And that meeting, again, is May 6th. So I just want to make sure that people are aware of that. And lastly, the local housing partnership is meeting as we speak. And I'm here, so I don't have anything to report on that. Thank you.
Mr. Brian Dick?
Just quickly welcome Ms. Miller to the board.
Thank you.
Thanks for putting your name out there, and congratulations on getting on. And then Ms. Stronach, great job as usual. It's great to see you back. And I want to thank Mr. Kelly for stepping up again for the chair, and Mr. Kratman on their leadership. It should be a good year. So thank you very much. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to thank the community for trusting me to serve on this board, and the welcome that I've received from the members of this board has been warm, and from town staff. I want to thank all the volunteers that worked on Election Day, and particularly recognize Mrs. Stronach and Mr. Dennis Francis for feeding everybody on Election Day. They did a great job, and I know that it was well received. And that's all I have to say. Actually, I'd like to add my thanks and appreciation for Mr. Johnson's service to this community. He has left a legacy in Tewksbury that will be honored, and I think a wonderful track record of leadership that will be hard to emulate. Thank you.
Very good. Just short and sweet. I would like to recognize the folks that newly got elected and re-elected, and also the folks that actually put their necks out there. It's never easy to run for any position. So even for the folks that, didn't get in, it still takes an act of courage to put your neck out there and to run for office, or the time, energy, and effort. And just to piggyback, I will miss Mr. Johnson. I have a ton of respect for him, so I will miss Mr. Johnson. So, and last but not least, I have been getting queries from the residents on the committees. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to be a little more proactive with the committees, and Mr. Montori, through you and through Janine, what I'd like to do is start to get the, let's start get that rolling. I know we have a lot of the committees up till June 30th, July 1st, and I know some extend into, multiple years, but I'd like to get on that and get that out there, see who wants to reapply, and then let's see which residents wants to come and potentially be part of a committee to get the ball rolling a little bit early in that process, including the committee with the Trahan, as well as the
North Street.
North Street. I forget the name of, what do we call that committee?
It's the reuse committee for the North Street and Trahan elementary schools.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we might have to simplify that, and especially in lieu, it is a tough one, but especially in lieu of the vote, that's kind of top of mind. So I said, we're going to align that committee with all the committees come June 30th and beyond. So again, a lot of residents are asking about the committee, in particular that committee, so I'd like to get that going a little bit earlier.
Sure.
So we'll be prepared, and everyone can hit the ground running come June 30th, and that's
Sure.
all I had. So with that said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
A
Second.
motion, I have a second. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.